Hello everyone, welcome back. I have One Piece, chapter 1141, An Older Woman. What the hell does that mean? I wanted to get this video out, even though I'm obviously very late. I'm due to go on holiday to France for a bit of skiing, starting tomorrow. So I want to get it out now rather than when I come back, because then I've got 2 chapters of One Piece to do. But where we left off, they've got the key to Loki's cuffs. Will they release Loki? Let's find out. So as always, we open up with the cover image and we find out why Ulti was so angry. They've beaten the crud out of Pepe, and well, they might even be killing him. It doesn't look good, and she is angry. She's crying. This is a very dark continuation of Ogre Child Yamato, but it'll be interesting because I'm sure at some point Yamato is going to charge in. I don't know, because everyone in this room is an enemy, even though they're kind of hurting each other. So I don't know how Yamato responds to that. Maybe we'll see next chapter. So we open up on the first page. We're not going to find out what Luffy's doing yet. We're finding out what Nami and Road are up to. They're trying to kind of patch up the guards, get them on the ship of all things. And Nami's all Nami cares about is she's upset that she didn't get any treasure, and you know, she's talking about Loki and treasure, and Road is trying his best to make her stop because she's revealing too much information. So the next up for page 2, we've got again, not Luffy yet. We've got Ripley giving Frankie a tour of the Adam Tree, and a bit of this history where the Elbaf residents, the giants, they live in villages on the tree branches, which is quite impressive. It just establishes how massive this tree actually is, that there's just so many villages of giants in these tree branches. And in one of these history lessons, one of the branches got struck by lightning and caught fire, and that branch had to be cut away from the Adam Tree, basically wiping out an entire village, which is crazy. And then so in the final bit, you know, Frankie says it must have been a tough choice, and I find it ominous anyway, that Ripley says that you might say that the vulnerabilities of Elbaf are fire and lightning, and fire and lightning actually get bolded. That's a bit of emphasis. So I don't know if that'll come into play later in this arc. Maybe. So next page is a bit of humour with Usopp now. Nami's returned to the village of Elbaf, or wherever the bloody hell they are. And Usopp is just stinking drunk. Tries to ask Nami where Luffy and Zoro is and where she'd been, but he's absolutely slurring his words. And then he you know, moving down, we move to the middle bit, and he's talking really, really generously about Nami, and Jarul says, "Oh yes, a fine beauty she is," but you stop calling him a perv, and then asks his type, and it's apparently an older woman. I don't know if that's where the title of the chapter comes in, but obviously it seems humorous enough because this dude is probably the oldest being in Elbaf, so there's no one older than him, which in the final bit Usopp agrees and smacks the sword. And apparently, I thought it was just in his helmet. It's apparently in his head as well, because it causes him great pain. So next page we get more drunken shenanigans. we've got Dory shaking Usopp for harming Jarul, and then he goes on about pulling Excalibur from its sheath. He's really wasted. And Brook accuses him of being wasted, and apparently Brook is somehow drunk as well, even though he, as a skeleton, should not be able to get drunk. Yo! Great. And then we get to the next page. We get the more sensible people. We've got Nami and Jinbei being, you know, sober, but they're commenting about, you know, they understand, especially Nami saying she understands Usopp getting carried away because this was a dream of his. So it's cool that she remembers that dream of his, he this is one of the places he idolized. But then we get to the final couple panels of the page where Sanji notices that Gerd has gone missing. Is this ominous? It's obvious that Sanji would notice. He'd notice when a pretty woman goes missing. But where has she gone? So next page we find out where Gerd went. She has been dragged along to assess these guards that they've brought back that Shamrock and Gunko beat up. So yeah, they've got like fractures and whatever. They've been injured. Whatever. She's the doctor. She's reviewing them. And then the next panel, she also starts interrogating Road about what happened. And he is struggling because he is keeping everything that he found out a secret, because there will be trouble if he reveals it. So much so she notices him sweating. And he's all for it. He's a masochist. He loves it. But when she suggests waking up the guards, he tries to talk her out of it. So next page, Gerd is saying, I'm going to have to report this to Chief Jarul. And Road, obviously panicked, tries to say, get her to not do it because it'll ruin the feast. But she's clearly not buying it. And then internally, Road's like, oh yeah, if they find out about this Loki business, he'll be treated as an accomplice. And before he can finish his thoughts, she smacks him with her axe. Which he just enjoys because, again, masochist, weirdo. I don't know where I sit with Road, whether I find him annoying or whether I like him, but it'll be interesting to see how his behavior comes off in the anime. But next page, we find out where Luffy and Zoro are finally, and they have indeed taken the key to the underworld. They are going to see Loki, and I love these big shots, and I guess you need a big shot to really convey the size difference between Loki and normal humans. So they found out that Loki's been injured, and we get at the end where Zoro just nonchalantly just comments on how large Loki is, and they realize he's breathing. So all's good, right? But the left half of this page is really interesting in that Luffy's convinced that Loki in his condition won't be able to cause any damage, and he immediately sets undoing his cuffs. Now, Zoro suspects something is up and is trying to convince him to not use the key. And he notices that because of how Luffy reacts when he touches the cuffs, that they're made of sea prism. Obviously very interesting, because that would imply, I think that most of us have suspected, that Loki is some sort of devil fruit user. And then they notice Loki's friends, the animals, that they're all passed out as well. So Zoro's still trying to get Luffy to not undo the cuffs. Do we think Luffy's going to listen? I mean, does he ever? The next page, love it when they come to blows. Luffy and Zoro have a bit of an argument. Luffy just wants to save Loki, and Zoro is concerned about everything he's heard about Loki and the damage he could cause. He even suggests that, such a being as Loki would be a major threat to Elbaf. And he just says, give me a second, what's he going to do? He kicks Loki to wake him up. Luffy's furious, but it apparently does its job. So next page, it turns out that kick was just to test if Loki was faking his injuries or not. Lovely little test. And then I think they were joking in these second set of panels where it's like, oh, he slumped over and like, oh, he died. And I love how cold this is from Zoro. If he's dead, then he wasn't meant to survive. Like, oh my god, Zoro. But in the last panels, they're like talking about taking him to a doctor. So I don't think they think he's dead, but they're going to leave one cuff on his legs. So they've taken off all the other cuffs, but they're leaving one on his leg to keep him sort of weakened, I guess. They also talk about taking him to a doctor. Luffy's, saying take him to Chopper, but Zoro's being the level-headed one here, saying, the Owl Library's too far, so we'll say there was a doctor at the feast. We'll take them to that doctor, which they're obviously referring to Gerd. Sensible. but I think she'd be actually pretty shocked and freaked out if they bring Loki to her, but we'll see. So next page, they ponder the situation. And they're like, well, if they find out they've freed Loki from this, they'll get kicked out of the country. But they need to get him a doctor, so whatever, they'll just roll with it. And Zoro accuses Luffy of only wanting to go there to get meat from the feast. But he should just get meat from the passed out animals. Meat's meat, right? But Luffy, in the next set of panels, is furious. He's like, friends don't eat friends. So that's a hard line with Luffy. He loves meat, but he will not eat animals he considers friends. So that's good news for Chopper, right? He's not emergency food after all. But in the last set of panels for that page, Zoro's the one who said, "Oh, I'll go get the doctor, you wait here." Not a great idea, because, we know how Zoro is. He'll just get lost. But before that can happen, there's some voices coming from the sky. But the next page is crazy, so it's revealed the voices in the sky was Hajirden and a bunch of the other giants, plus Sanji. Rhodes there too, Gerd. And they're just plummeting on the ship. They're not using the lift because they don't have time, because they need to stop Luffy from releasing Loki. But as we see from the lower panels, is that they can't stop the ship crashing, and they're going to die. Oh, Rhodes accepted his fate. But they're not going to die, we know that. And of course, Luffy jumps into action and saves them with Gum Gum Balloon. And they're all happy in the bottom panel, except for the ship bounces off of Luffy. So he stopped the big impact, but it looks like there's going to be another impact. And it's revealed on the next page, that they survived the actual impact, the bouncing off of Luffy. Now they're only severely injured instead of dying immediately. Hurrah! So they try and talk. Well, they forced the information out of Road about Loki, so they're trying to talk Luffy and Zoro out of it. But in the bottom here, Zoro reveals that it's too late, because we already know that they've removed most of Loki's cuffs already, which obviously startles Hajirden. And oh my god, this shot of Loki just towering over Luffy is just, it hits hard. It's so imposing. It's great. I'm 100% using this for the thumbnail. There's no other choice. So we end with the giants shocked at a rejuvenated Loki. Luffy's even caught out. He thought Loki was passed out. Loki grabs an axe behind him, and they tell him to take his hands off of Ragnir. What a great name for a weapon. I mean, there's no I looked this up. I don't see any reference to a mythological weapon known as Ragnir, but it sounds kind of similar to Mjolnir, right? And Ragnir could be the first half of Ragnarok. Who knows? That's what it could refer to. But it'll be so exciting to see what Loki does next chapter, and I kind of hate that I'm going to be on holiday during this, because I will read it, but I won't be able to react to it, post a video, whatever. So that'll have to wait. But until then, I will see you guys next time. Let me know what you thought about the chapter in the comments. I loved it. It's great. It's a great build up to the interaction between Luffy and Loki in the next chapter. Until then, I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.